Hey Stampers! Thanks for joining me again for another card. My name is Krista Thomas and my website is regalstamping.com, and today we're going to be making the Butterfly Gala card, and it will look like this when you're all done. I tried to find stamp sets during this coronavirus pandemic that were bestsellers for me, in the hopes that many of you will already have the stamp set that you need for this or for the cards that we're doing. And so what you'll need is Butterfly Gala with the Butterfly Duet Punch and a few other supplies. Remember, if you don't have this set, look for something else. Maybe you have flowers that you could do, you know, in an arrangement like this, or bumblebees or kites, or I mean, the sky's the limit. So see what you have, but if you don't have this set and you would like it, it is currently available and I can help you with that. The ordering numbers and such are in the blog post, so we can certainly help you out there. Okay, if you've already printed out the PDF, which is available on my blog where you found this video, regalstamping.com. Right there, regalstamping.com. You are going to find cutting measurements on the first page along with the colors. Now, one more thing, if you don't have the same colors that I used, pick a different color scheme. Use some colors that you have in your stash and it'll all be fine. Okay, so the colors that I am using are Seaside Spray, Pretty Peacock, Mint Macaron, and Whisper White. When we get to the butterflies, we'll be using some Blushing Bride and Rococo Rose. So pick some color schemes that you have, or you can come by my house and get the kits, or you can order them from me and I will ship them to you. Okay, so here are the measurements so that we can get started. From the bottom front page of the PDF, we need a card base, Whisper White that measures 8.5 by 5.5, and we will eventually fold that in half. Then we need a front mat, and the front mat and inside mats are both cut from Seaside Spray, and they measure 5.25 by 4 inches, and you'll need 2 of those. One for the front, one for the inside. Next you will need, let's see, next is the horizontal strip. This is from Mint Macaron, and it measures 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches. You'll need Pretty Peacock that measures 2 inches by 5.5, and we'll use this in the triple banner punch later. Or if you don't have that, you can simply notch it yourself. And then you will need a scrap of Whisper White for the butterflies and the little sentiment that goes across the front. You should have enough room on this scrap, depends on what size your scrap is, but it wouldn't hurt to have an extra little strip for the words should the need arise. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do as we follow along with the PDF is we're going to put one of our Seaside Spray panels through an embossing folder called Scripty. And I wanted to show you how to add a little bit of shimmer to the front of your card. So before we run this panel through our embossing folder, we're going to use a mixture of rubbing alcohol and, whoops, wrong one, the Frost White Shimmer Paint, which is found in the annual catalog on page 180. It comes in Champagne Mist and Frost White. Today we're using the Frost White, and what I did was, this is about half full now, so you don't have to make a full bottle, but I've got a little spritzer, and fill it up halfway or all the way, it's up to you, with the rubbing alcohol, and then add just a couple drops. Don't overdo it. Little goes a long way of the shimmer paint. Once that is in here, then you just shake it up, and all that little shimmer paint will be interspersed throughout. And then I'm going to move this. We spritz our cardstock, and this is actually going to allow it to accept this embossed folder a little bit better too. It makes it a little bit deeper. Have good ventilation when you do this. And put that inside the embossing folder. You can also use water instead of the rubbing alcohol, but water takes longer to dry, so when I'm making a card, I want it to dry quickly. So this Scripty 3D embossing folder requires the use of a blue clear plate on top to give it the thickness that is needed to give it a good impression. And one little trick that I have found with the Scripty folder is to run it back and through one direction and then turn it the other direction and do it again. This Scripty folder just isn't real deep, and so I want to get a good impression, and I feel like squishing it in both directions helps. Now, I don't think you'll be able to see the shimmer in this video, but it just adds a gorgeous touch to the front of your cards. So if you've never used those shimmer paints before, you might want to give them a try. They're pretty cool. Okay. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. It's almost there, but you can see some dark spots in it. We'll let that dry while I work on a couple other things. Starting with the Pretty Peacock strip, we're going to put that into the triple banner punch. This is 2 inches wide, which is the maximum width that you can use with this punch. Push it all the way in until it stops. You'll see it down here. And punch. And now you've got your perfect banner. Can you do this with scissors? Absolutely. But this way, it's always perfect. I love this punch. Okay, so I will put that aside. And now we're going to go ahead and fold our card base and use a bone folder. Give it a good crease. And then, are we ready to glue this on? Probably not quite yet. Let's go ahead and let that continue to dry while we work on some other things. All right, so now we're going to do some stamping of the butterflies. Let me get the stamp set over here. The butterfly duo that I used is this one right here. There are other options, and the neat thing about this stamp set is the 2 butterflies are connected. They're one stamp. That way they are perfectly spaced for when you go in to punch them out with the butterfly duet. So don't be tempted to cut them apart. They're made that way for a reason. And we're going to be stamping the butterflies with Pretty Peacock ink onto the Whisper White cardstock. So there's 1 set and 2 sets. I almost got that one too low. I think it'll be okay though. And then we'll leave some room up here for our sentiment later. So I'm going to clean that off and put that away. Now, the next step will be to fill in with the solid image stamp. These stamps actually come in 2 pieces. And the reason for that is you might want the upper portion of your butterfly to be a different color or a different shade than the bottom. So this enables you to do that. However, for this card, we are going to do the same color. which is Blushing Bride. So we'll do the upper half of the butterflies first. And I'll see if I can do this without getting my head in the video. So there's one. And two. And then we'll do the lower. Like that. Okay. And then there is one stamp, solid image for the small butterfly. So we only have to do that one with one stamp. Like that. And like that. It's not perfect, but it's okay. All right. So now those have some color on them, but we're not going to stop there. If you have the Stampin' Blend markers, which are the alcohol-based markers that Stampin' Up! Has, we're going to use Rococo Rose in the light and the dark. But if you don't have those, find a colored pencil or something that you can color with that is similar. A lighter version and a darker version of a color that will go with the base color here. If you're using the Blushing Bride, find a pink or something. So let me just start coloring and I'll show you what I did to add a little bit of pizzazz to this butterfly card. I started by coloring with the Rococo Rose Light and this little squiggly curvy line that goes in the upper wings. Okay, and then I came down and I did these little petal shaped things. On each side. Okay. And then these sections here. And the middle line through here. Then I came up and I also added it to two of the sections in the upper wings and three of the sections in the lower. I wanted to make sure I got the middle one, so we'll start with the middle, then we'll skip one and go over, and skip one and go over. So like that. So get your middle one in there, skip one, and skip one. Okay? Then on the smaller, we're going to do just these little petal shaped designs on the wings. So let me go ahead and quickly catch up with this one so that they're all done. Whoops, I think I missed the middle one there. So this time I'm improvising. We'll do it different. And that way you can see it does work. When you make mistakes, you improvise. Okay. Coloring these in. Coloring with these Stampin' Blends markers has changed my world when it comes to stamping. I absolutely love them, and when I do my local classes and share these with the ladies, they love them too. So if you haven't tried them, you should give it a try. Okay, so I'm done with the Rococo Rose Light, but now I want to add some shadowing, which will create a little bit of more depth and interest. I'm using the Rococo Rose Dark. So what I'm going to do for the little guy, I'm just going to start at the center and just do a little flick from the center and just about halfway through. So you're still seeing that lighter color. And then maybe even dab, dab, dab a few times near the body, where the body's going to go. We will be stamping a body. So that just deepens the color. And I think you'll see when it's all said and done that it's simply stunning. Okay, on the big one, I'm going to go flick, 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 and then tap, tap, tap near the base area to get it even darker. Flick, 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 and then like this near the base. You can flick a little more if you want. Same thing over here. Flick, 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 dab, 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 or dot, dot, dot. Flick, 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 and some dot, dot, dots to make it a little bit darker. And then same thing like we did up here for the little butterfly, these little intersections. Doesn't take much, but just give it a little bit of extra dark. And then we're going to come down here and do the flick, flick, flick. Again, dot, dot, dot. Flick, 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 dot, dot, dot. So when you flick, you're pushing away from your body. Flick, flick, flick. Flick, 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 dot, dot, dot. See how that's adding all of that depth there? So just continue to do this in these striped sections. When you order the Stampin' Blend markers, I always encourage people to get both the light and the dark, because blending is what this product is all about. Okay, so now you can see the difference between the butterflies on the left and the butterflies on the right. That really adds a lot of visual interest, does it not? Okay, so let me finish doing this other set real quick. Flick, flick, flick. And you can see that I'm using the small end versus the brush end for this. I don't think this butterfly's pretty detailed, so I don't think I need that wider end. Okay, a little bit more. Whoops, I just did that wrong. Okay, it's okay. We're improvising. Okay, so I think that one is done, except now we just do a little bit on this little guy. Flick, flick, tap, tap, tap. Flick, flick, tap, tap, tap. Okay, so those are done. And we're ready to punch those out. So we're going to turn the punch over and get these butterflies in here. Get them all lined up and then punch. Okay, and we do still have enough room on here for our words later. But first, let's stamp some bodies. The reason I like to stamp the bodies after I punch out the butterflies is because I find if I do it first, I get the body too high and I end up cutting off the head, or I get it too low and it just doesn't work out as well. This way, I'm going to put this on my black placemat just so you can have some contrast. Okay, this way I can see how much room I have for the body. And I have gotten both of the bodies from the stamp set onto one block. One is on one side of the block and the other's on the other because I was running out of little blocks. So we're going to stamp the bodies with Pretty Peacock, and you can see right through the stamp, hopefully, and get it right down the middle. I'm a little bit shaky today. Okay. Then for the little butterfly, same thing. And that one's not quite perfect, but it's okay. All right, so now our butterflies are complete. They are ready to go on the card. I'm going to set them aside for a minute. And onto that paper here, that scrap, I'm going to go ahead and stamp a little note, which is from the Butterfly Gala. A little note. I'll stamp it right down here. And then I'm going to use the classic label punch right here. Get it centered in there and punch. Okay, and now I've got all of my parts for the front of the card. So let's go ahead and do some assembly. Let's check and see if that background is dry. And it is. And you'll find that that alcohol mix does make it curl just a little bit, but when you glue it down, it's going to stay put. So don't worry about a little bit of curl. And I wish you could see how pretty it is. I'm going to go ahead and do an X through the middle as well. That way it will hold it down nicely. Okay. Get that on there. The shimmer is very subtle, similar to the shimmery white cardstock that Stampin' Up! Sells. And it's just gorgeous. Okay, next to glue down, we're going to add the Mint Macaron horizontal strip, and that's going to go from the left to the right and roughly 1 inch to 1.5 inches from the bottom. Something like that. Whoops. Okay. Next, we will add the Pretty Peacock banner. And as you can see, it's a little bit long for the top. So if you need to trim that off just a little bit, you can do that with a paper trimmer or with scissors. And now that fits the card a little bit better. So I'm going to glue that down. When you're gluing things to a textured background, sometimes you need a little bit extra glue and then press it down really good so that it gets glued really well. Next, we're going to add some butterflies, and on the front of my card I decided to use 3 butterflies, and I kind of positioned them in a semi-circular or a crescent moon shape. Does that make sense? And then I played with the placement for my words and made sure that little guy wasn't going to get in the way. So you could go a little higher even, like that. Save the last large butterfly for the inside of the card. And then if you want, you can use dimensionals to pop up the butterflies. Today I'm going to use our mini dimensionals just because they'll fit the small butterflies the best. I'm going to put one in the middle of each butterfly, and then on the big one, I will put one on each wing, the upper wings. That'll hold it good. Get those little pieces off. Whoops! He flew away. Okay, he's gonna go down like that. And then each of these butterflies, I think, just needs one in the middle. Pop him on. And one more. The alcohol inks or Stampin' Blend markers, when you use them, they do go through to the back side. So just make sure that you always have a placemat down to protect your table. Okay, I think I'm going to glue the little words flat. I think. Would I? Yeah. Let the butterflies be the focal point. I just said I'm gonna glue it flat, and then I grab the dimensionals. Oh well. Okay, so there's the glue. I'm going to put it just kind of off the top of the mint macaron halfway, like that. Okay. And then to finish off the front of the card, I felt like it needed something else, and so I turned to my woven, I think they're called woven threads, sequins. They are gorgeous, and they're from the annual catalog. And I'm just going to stick my finger in there and get a few to stick to it. And drop them here and there. I always like to use an odd number. Okay, I'm going to use my tool to do this. An odd number of either 3 or 5. I just think that that's what I like to do. So there's 5 of them. I think that looks good. We'll stick that little guy back in there. And now my little trick for gluing sequins on is to put some liquid glue on my silicone mat. And then I grab my sequin, get it in the glue, and bring it back over. So I'm just dipping it in the glue, placing it where I want, and then either using my finger or tweezers to kind of get it to go off. Okay. And by putting the glue on that silicone mat, when it dries, it just rubs right off. And it keeps my placemat from being too sticky. Just like that. Okay. Because sure as I put it on my placemat, I would then stick my card on it. This way I can set it out of the way and cleanup will be easy. All right, so there's the front of the card. And now we just need to do the inside. The inside is very simple. We're using a piece of the Seaside Spray cardstock, Pretty Peacock ink, and the sentiment from the stamp set that says, "You've been on my mind." There are other options in here if you should so choose. So a little note, "Hello beautiful," something like that would even be great. I think during this quarantine time, "You've been on my mind" would be useful. So I'm going to use that saying, and then I'm going to glue on that last butterfly. And I think I'm going to put him down here because I didn't quite leave enough room. It's going to look a little cluttered up there. So we'll put him down here. Open the card and glue it to the inside. And this card is finished. Okay. So thank you for joining me and making this card. And I hope that these online classes are helping us get through this time of quarantine and missing each other. Thanks, and I'll see you for the next class.